Welcome to Professional Requirements, Part 1 of Regulations and Safety. Who regulates water systems? We're going to talk about what you need to know in a nutshell. At first it seems confusing, but after you've been operating for a while, it becomes a little bit more clear. The cities and water districts are directly governed by state law. State law, which are called state statutes, sets how they're organized, elections, and so forth, what they can do. Here we see we're looking at the revisor statutes, which is revisor.mo.gov. I like to use a revisor because it's the statutes that are up to date. Sometimes if you Google something, you have to be careful that you might Google up an old statute that's been changed and you not know it. This is the statutes for everything in the state, everywhere from you've got cities, townships, military, executive branch, agriculture and animals. It has a whole plethora of everything: juries, civil items, criminal procedures. Everything in the world that the state statutes cover. We find in chapters 241 through 250 land, levees, drainage, sewers, and water supplies. So let's just click on that and look at it. That's where you find your regulations. For your Chapter 247 is public water supply districts. Chapter 250 here is sewage systems and waterworks, city and districts. So let's look at Chapter 247. This is county districts. It's public water supply districts. It has all of the statutes, and most water systems just print this out because you look at it periodically. It discusses how to form the districts, and it shows that they're political subdivisions, how numbered, how the boundaries are set, how just to detach from a district, how it's actually formed, if you want to form one from scratch, the powers of public water supply districts, the board of directors, all of their qualifications and all, how it's organized, on down different things, board to fix rates and charges, how they can create a lien on a piece of property for a water charge, how they can do bonds to gather money to expand or to upgrade the system. And this is for a district, so how they can convey mains to a city, like if a city annexes into the district, how the city can purchase the district's mains, has all the regulations for that, how to condemn property, and it even goes into metropolitan districts, which are not counties, they're city area districts. Basically, it goes all through the same statutes for those to outline how those are organized and how they operate. Let's go back and look at Chapter 250, which is basically sewer and water systems, city and district. Some of these overlap, but this is one that has more city stuff in it about water systems, and it's how the cost of systems financed. It's revenue bonds again, and bonds are what people vote on that are sold on the market to. It's like they guarantee your payment. It's a collateral for a loan to build a water supply or to expand it or build a new water plant. If you hear them talk about bond issues, that's what this entails, is they vote to sell bonds, which raises money for whatever they need to do. Statutes talk about the city and how they have rates and charges when they overlap. Talks about sewer districts, just everything. Termination of water services for non-payment of sewer charges, when it's allowed. All your law stuff is in these statutes. Let's back up a little bit here. We looked at the 21 through 250. Let's go on down here and look at something else. We've got additional executive departments here. Let's take a look at that too. What you've got also is you've got Department of Natural Resources that regulates your district or your city. So Chapter 640 here, if you click on Department of Natural Resources, Chapter 640, you can read all of the regulations for the Department of Natural Resources, how they're created, and all of the plans they have to have. And as you boil down, you find drinking water. And here's an interesting one: is a commission is established. This is a Safe Drinking Water Commission, and they actually are another player in this. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. And the interesting thing about that is we'll note it twice here, is that all of DNR's regulations have to be through this Safe Drinking Water Commission before they can become a rule change. And in that rule change, there's always stakeholder meetings and comment periods before the rules are proposed to the Safe Drinking Water Commissions by DNR, so you can actually have input in the rule changes. And it's very important that the water systems do this. So what you've got is cities are directly governed by state law, and that state statutes set forth Chapter 640, the regulations of DNR. So then you become under those regulations for your water and wastewater systems. And as an operator, you've got your local city council or your water district board, which governs the direct supervision of your supervisor. So you work for your supervisor, and they guide your supervisor in the direction that they want things to go. So let's back up and a little bit and talk about Missouri DNR, which is what we're looking at here. Basically, what it boils down to is EPA, who is the National Agency for Environmental Protection, sets forth guidelines and rules and regulations and limits on contaminants and such. And you'll hear more about contaminants later. They set the state's maximum contaminant levels, which we call MCLs, for inorganic contaminants, and they're the same as the federal requirements because Missouri has adopted that they won't make any more regulations any stricter than EPA. So they'll mirror whatever EPA sets forth as a guideline for contaminants. And in addition, Missouri's adopted a total coliform rule, and we'll discuss all of these rules. We'll discuss the Safe Drinking Water Act, the federal MCLs, which EPA sets, total coliform rule, the revised total coliform rule in later lessons. Well, what it means is the EPA has granted primacy to Missouri DNR. That means that Missouri DNR, and we're going to call them DNR because it's easier than saying department regulations all the time. In your career, you'll hear them called DNR. And that puts DNR in charge of enforcing the regulations. And as we said, Missouri has adopted to enforce EPA rules and not make them any more stringent. And as we talked to the Safe Drinking Water Commission, that all of the rule changes have to go through. And it is made up of a mix of water systems and public persons. And they sit on this board and they review issues and such that DNR wants to change or anything that's brought before them that's controversial, that needs a ruling by the commission. And DNR has several things that they do. Not only do they regulate the regulations, I guess you could say, they control the regulations when they try to change them, but they do inspections, and they're a place, along with Missouri Rural Water, that you can call if you have questions that you don't understand, regulations that you don't understand, MCLs that you don't understand, limits on your contaminants that you'll go through in this course and in the operator certification course also. And the drinking water facilities, which you're part of, the water system will collect water samples, and it all depends on how many customers you have, basically. And those water samples, and we're talking bacteria samples, which are cold form samples, and what it is there's going to be a section on the bacteria samples later on how to take them and all of the information to go with them. But that sample goes to the Department of Health lab by way of a courier that you take it to your local health department. The courier picks it up and delivers it to the state laboratory, and then laboratory tests. Unless your system is certified to test its own water, or you use a private lab that's certified for the water testing. Anyway, the tests, whoever they're from, are reported to DNR, and they provide early detection for potential health problems. We'll see in later lessons how you can get results as soon as they're processed online. And another thing that DNR does is their staff inspect public water systems, treatment, storage, distribution facilities, and all such to ensure they're built according to approved plans and to ensure the system is operated and maintained in a safe manner. When they do an inspection, they will go around with someone from the system, typically the chief operator is who it should be, and they'll look at the system and they'll make recommendations for improvement. And if there's any significant deficiencies, and significant deficiencies mean just that, significant because they're health risk. That's something that has to be corrected because it is a health risk. To sum it up, you're mostly regulated by DNR, but you've got to remember they're just doing a job just like you are. The next lesson, we'll go over how to become a certified operator. We'd rather call it a water systems operations specialist because that's what you are, as a specialist. And that is your most important professional requirement.